content is not a substitute of professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a physician for any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hello and Namaste, it's me Gaurav Preti.
And it's me, Sauzan Dalal.
First, I would like you to welcome you all to yet another episode of our podcast brought to you by Creative Callousum Nepal. In this program, we will be discussing various diseases we have encountered during our clinical posting. Without further delay, let's move on to our case scenario.
A 65 years old male came to our OPD with a 2-day history of itching and burning sensation on left side of his back and chest. These symptoms were associated with lethargy and fatigue. 2 days prior to presentation, the patient experienced numbness and tingling in same location. His medical history was significant for hypertension and diabetes mellitus. There was no significant surgical history. The patient's current medication includes ramipril, metformin, and glipizide. He had no known allergens. Physical examination of skin showed cluster of confluent vesicles on left side of patient's chest and on his back and side along the 6th intercostal space without crossing the midline. Palpation caused some tenderness with increased itching and burning. So what do you think are the differentials?
The differential diagnosis may include shingles or contact dermatitis. I think it can be shingles because of history suggesting the prodrome, the dermatomal distribution, the vesicle groupings, and the pain in the area of the rash. It can be allergic contact dermatitis because of history of itchiness, vesicles, and rash. This is all I know. Do you think there are any more other differentials for these symptoms?
Insect bite can be suspected because of history of vesicles, pain on that location, itchiness, and rash. What do you think might be the investigations?
In most cases, a diagnosis of shingles, allergic contact dermatitis, and insect bite are based on the characteristic prodrome of symptom and pattern of skin eruption. Laboratory testing might provide some assistance in less typical cases. Blood tests may be done. An immunofluorescence assay is more sensitive and reliable. In case of shingles, varicella zoster virus specific IgM antibodies is seen in blood. This appears only during chickenpox or shingles and not while the virus is latent. In larger laboratories, lymph collected from the blister is tested by polymerase chain reaction for varicella zoster virus DNA or examined with electron microscope for virus particles. Molecular biology tests based on PCR are currently considered the most reliable for shingles. Patch tests can be done to differentiate allergic contact dermatitis, though these investigations are possible, but most cases are diagnosed clinically, and our case was also diagnosed based on the clinical parameters. The above history was suggestive of shingles. Do you know anything about shingles?
It is a primary varicella zoster infection that typically manifests in children as chickenpox or seasonal viremia that tend to occur in epidemics. After a varicella zoster infection resolves and immunity develops, latent virus persists in dorsal root ganglia. Herpes zoster develops when varicella zoster virus is reactivated in dorsal ganglia and migrates to adjacent sensory dermatomes, causing a rash. Following a similar course to that of chickenpox, the rash starts as a maculopapular lesions which evolves into vesicles and forms scabs within 10 days. Complete healing of vesicles may take up to 1 month. The course of disease is usually associated with unilateral pain that follows a dermatome. This pain may precede the eruption and may persist for weeks or months. Because the development of herpes zoster is normally suppressed by immune system, reactivation tends to occur in people whose immunity is weakened, such as older or immunocompromised individuals. So, how do you think it can be treated?
The treatment of herpes zoster has three major objectives: treatment of acute viral infection, treatment of acute pain associated with herpes zoster, prevention of post-herpetic neuralgia. Antiviral agents, oral corticosteroids, and adjuvant individualized pain management modalities are used to achieve these objectives. Antiviral agents have been shown to decrease the duration of herpes zoster rash and severity of pain associated with the rash. Acyclovir therapy appears to produce a moderate reduction in development of post-herpetic neuralgia. Other antiviral agents like valsiclovir and famciclovir appear to be effective. Acyclovir is given 800 mg orally 5 times daily for 7 to 10 days, or valacyclovir is given 1 gram orally 3 times daily for 7 days, or famciclovir is given 500 mg orally 3 times daily for 5 to 7 days. What are other supportive treatments?
Orally administered corticosteroids are commonly used in treatment of herpes zoster. Prednisolone used in conjunction with acyclovir has been shown to reduce the pain associated with herpes zoster. Prednisolone is given 30 mg orally twice daily on first week, then 15 mg twice daily on second week, and then 7.5 mg twice daily on third week. The pain associated with herpes zoster ranges from mild to severe. Patients with mild to moderate pain may respond to over-the-counter analgesic. Patients with more severe pain may require addition of narcotic medication. Main complication of shingles is post-herpetic neuralgia. Do you know how do you treat it?
Although post-herpetic neuralgia is generally a self-limited condition, it can last indefinitely. Treatment is directed at pain control while waiting for the condition to resolve. Pain therapy may include multiple interventions such as topical medication, over-the-counter analgesic, tricyclic antidepressant, anticonvulsants, and several non-medical modalities.
In this episode, we discuss about the case of shingles. Thank you for listening patiently. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We will be back with another episode. Until then, have a good time.